everybody, welcome back to my channel, sushidragonmasters, and for this week, I had a plan. My plan was I'm just going to do a tag, because I had no plan, and that is what people do when they really don't have a plan. And then I ended up getting tagged to do the Cannoli Book Tag, so it just all worked out. Cannoli Book Tag was created by Josh from Literary Gladiators. He's also the one who tagged me. And if you watch this video all the way to the end, you get to witness me trying a cannoli for the first time. The first question is, which author and or publisher comes out with the best covers? So for this question, I went with Rick Riordan. I guess he's published by Disney, but I guess my choice is whoever designs his covers, because they are amazing, and I just picked out two of my favorites to show you, because if I went through like all the covers, that would take a while. But so this is the Battle of the Labyrinth. This is actually one of my favorite covers of all time. I think if not my favorite cover of all time. It's just so cool, and I know a lot of people don't like these newer covers, but I actually prefer them to the original. Then my other favorite is Mark Pathina, because it's pretty. It's just pretty. The next question is, cream an author or writer that is good at everything they write. For this, I know I just picked this person for the previous question, but when you have a favorite author, you just gotta pick them for this question, because they're your favorites. So, Rick Riordan. And yes, I picked to hold up this book because I didn't feel like pulling stuff out of a box. And I have, most of the other ones are in box sets, and that really irritates me to pull them out. I mean, I could just take them all out of the box, but I think they look pretty in the box. So, that's my dilemma. But anyways, I really like everything I've read by Rick Riordan. I haven't read anything by him that I absolutely hated. I mean, yes, there are some that I like more than others, but I just always like this whole mythology thing, and they're actually educational. This actually kind of got me more interested in some of the ancient history stuff, mainly the mythologies, but I think from reading the mythologies and these books, you sort of do get to know more about the history of that place, in addition to learning what they believed and stuff. Question 3, chocolate chips, a trope you believe always seems to work. Now, there are a lot of tropes that I like that are like kind of unpopular opinions. Not to say that I wouldn't say like I like seek them out or anything. Most of the time, you don't know they exist, because you have to kind of read the book to get it, unless it has it in the description, but it doesn't always do that. But anyways, I actually kind of like love triangles, but I do not think they work every time. So, yeah, I think when it comes to love triangles, I think they only work when it is a love triangle that serves a purpose in the story, and it's not just like a love triangle that is there to be there because it's the popular thing that's going on in all the books. But I feel weird saying, like, my favorite trope is love triangles with purpose, because even sometimes when they have a purpose, it's still, like, ridiculous, and you think that you didn't need the love triangle, you could have put something else in its place to serve the same purpose. But I really like romance, so maybe that's my thing, I don't know. But the one that I think can work every time, don't know if it's actually considered a trope or not, but suspense. Just like adding suspense to anything can work to make it suspenseful. That sentence sounds really stupid now that I think about it, but when you throw suspense in somewhere, in an already semi-suspenseful moment, and you just like amplify it more, it just always gets to me, and I have screamed at books before because I was just left in so much suspense. I don't necessarily like suspense. In fact, me and suspense, we don't really get along that well, but it always works. It always gets to me. Every time. even in movies. Yeah. Question 4. Chocolate covering. A cover you felt was much better than the story. For this, I think I'm gonna go with the book that I had picked for my reading challenge when I first started. So this is like the first time I ever did my reading challenge. And the thing was that we all had to read a dragon book, or at least those of us participating had to read dragon books, because that was what I picked. And I read The Glass Dragon, and I believe it was by Irene Radford, and if I'm wrong I will correct myself, like putting it here-ish. But the cover is really pretty, and the book is weird. I'm not going to say it was a bad book. I think the writing was pretty good, and it had a decent plot. But then this love triangle came in, and it was just the weirdest love triangle I've ever encountered. And it was the one time I was actually just like begging the love triangle to end. Because I mean, I've always wanted them to end, because I'm like, you need to be with that person. But this time I was like, I don't care who you pick, just stop this. Number 5 is powdered sugar. Where do you look first at a bookstore? The bookstore, I usually go to the young adult section first. More specifically, the young adult fantasy and adventure section. And yeah, I always look at that first. Even if I end up not getting anything from it, I'm always like, this is my section. That, and I also look at middle grade fantasy, because Percy Jackson is there, so I always have to go and look and see if they have anything there that by Rick Riordan that I don't own yet, because if they do, it usually ends up in my possession. Except the Demigod Diaries that I see like every time I go and I never buy it. And then I always wonder why I don't have it, even though I could just go buy it, because it's always there. Although, I bet when I actually go to like actually buy it, it won't be there, because that is how my life works. Question 6 is dried fruit. A work you enjoyed but questioned its adaptation. I could go for the obvious answer and say Percy Jackson, because its movie adaptation was not the best, to put it nicely, but the one I question the most is one that got adapted into a TV show. It only had a pilot episode and never went anywhere, but I saw some clips from it and I was like, what the heck? And that is The Selection by Kira Cass. They just made Maxon this jerk who blackmails people and like threatens to kill everyone. I don't know when he became such a person, but they must have happened not when I knew him. Because in these books he's so nice, and in fact he didn't want to kill people. He's not really for killing people. And he doesn't really blackmail people either. Number 7 is pistachios. A work or author you enjoy but feel is for an acquired taste. I am going to go with Maggie Stiefvater, because a lot of people who read her books don't like them because they say they're really slow and boring. And while they might like the overall story, they don't give it very high ratings because they say it's slow. And I actually really love Maggie Stiefvater's writing, because even though she is a young adult author, she really takes the time to explain the scenery and the people, and I really like that, because then you can have a more vivid picture of what's going on around and the people. Question 8 is Minnie, a short story writer or poet you want to recommend. Well, I thought about this, and there are actually like specific short stories that I would recommend to everybody, but if I had to pick a specific poet or short story author, probably would have to be Mark Twain, because he's Mark Twain. I mean, yeah. If we're getting to specifics, I really like, I mainly just read his poems, and I only read 2 short stories, and I read Huckleberry Finn, which is like not a short story, but I did not like Huckleberry Finn. I just didn't like the way that one was written, and I don't have to like it. But I really like his poem, Ode to Stephen Goldingbat's Deceased. Don't ask why, it's actually kind of amusing. And I like the story of the good little boy and the story of the bad little boy, because they're funny. But I also really like, and this is not by Mark Twain, I just really wanted to talk about this because I've never heard anyone mention it before, and I really liked it. But it's The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, and it's like really short, and I really loved it, which I found odd because I did not really like The Telltale Heart that much. That's what it's called, right? That really creepy one. I just found it really creepy because it was creepy. And not that I think it was necessarily a bad short story, but just I was a little creeped out. Anyways, The Mask of the Red Death is just like about death and how time is the enemy, and it's cool, and it is a little creepy, but I really liked it. And I like Edgar Allan Poe's poems a lot, especially The Bells. That one's really good. I need to read more short stories. I actually am planning to soon. So if you have any recommendations for me for like short stories, can you please comment them below, because I want to read more and short stories. Question 9. Lemon Zest. An author or writer that you feel has the greatest way with words. I have to go with Rick Riordan because I just like randomly say quotes from his books all the time. These books are just so funny and awesome. And I could also say Maggie Stiefvater. She's really good at writing too. And yeah. But I just have this obsession with Riordan's books, and so he comes up all the time in my life. Question 10 is cinnamon. A tip you have for being a better reader. I just heard my sister's car, so if you hear a door open and shut, that's her. And if you hear that jingling, that is my dog getting excited. But yeah. Well, I just kind of became like an active reader recently, like last year. So I had to figure things out as I went along. And for me personally, I don't know, this obviously isn't going to be for everybody. A cloud just went over the sun, and this is the sun, it's just why. But anyways, so one of the things that I do is I make goals for myself, because that is how I do things. Like I make a goal and then I work to achieve the goal, because then once I achieve the goal, even though I don't get anything as reward, like I feel like I've accomplished something, and so I like work for that feeling of accomplishment. So every day I have a page rule that like I have to read this many pages every day, and then it sort of became more of a habit. So even if I don't feel like reading, it's still like in my head that I have to pick up that book and read 50 pages, which is my rule. And then I have like, I want to read this many books in the year, and then I try to make like a number goal every month. Like my goal is like to at least read 4 books a month, although some months I might try for more, like, you know, especially since it's summer now, I might be like, I want to try to read 6 books this month. Well, not this month, because I'm doing stuff this month. Maybe next month, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, just making goals for you to achieve so that you can feel like you've achieved something. And also, you know, finding someone that you can talk to about your books helps, because then that keeps you excited about things. Even if it's not someone who read the books, even if you have to like resort to talking to your sister who has no idea what you're talking about, that works too. Question 11 is The Godfather, a book with multiple deaths. I'm just going to pick the Throne of Glass series as a whole, because there are multiple deaths in every book. And the last question is, Dessert Tray, who do you tag? I will tag Leah from Handmade for Hope 1. I will tag Michaela from Michaela Hart's Books. I will tag Julie from A Girl in a Book, and I will now eat egg cannoli. It kind of tastes like a cheesecake. And I like cheesecake, so I'm cool. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!